It's been my great pleasure here to attend a class with Jeff Greenberg, a master in Resolve, and we've been exposed to all the basic core of this class, 101. And I have a couple of questions for you, Jeff. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for all the teaching that you've done. It's been inspirational and it's been amazing. You're a fantastic teacher. How long have you been in the film editing business?
I've been in the role of film editing for now, it's topping a bit over 20 years. I went to film school in the mid-90s, having dropped out of school at one point. I originally went for medicine and found myself really enjoying filmmaking. I made the mistake of getting my hands on a camera and seeing an Avid back in 95, 96. And
such a vast amount of experience in the editing business. Give me one of your favorite editing projects.
I would probably turn and say I did a piece just after I'd finished film school on a event for a Penn State fundraiser. And they asked me to come in and fix a scene. And once I got it working, I turned to them and I said, "What other problems you have?" And I suddenly became the editor of the show. It's all because this problem we have of being self-taught leads us to hopefully being self-taught well. You're going to make mistakes. In fact, the sooner they happen, kind of the better. So I worked on this project 20 some plus years ago. I'm still really close with the producer who did it. I'm still really proud of the work, although today I could have probably done it in a day, what took me 3 days without sleep.
We're here on from the university, and my private thesis study is facial aesthetics, and my particular interest was using Resolve for facial work. And being an expert in Resolve, how do you feel? The first question is, what kind of skill set in general does an editor need to have understanding facial aesthetics?
I have to, of course, put the qualification there. I'm never going to claim the word expert. I'm never going to claim the word guru. I'm still on this journey. I'm still learning, and every day of my life has that. In fact, as far as facial aesthetics go, I am merely an egg in this path that you're clearly studying and looking deep into. I know when I see somebody who's attractive on screen, and no matter how beautiful a person is, no matter how much I'm attracted to the moment of their acting or just them in an interview, there are points where they're not as interesting. There are points where they're not as attractive. So I'll turn to you at one level and say, there's something about the unconscious moments that we have when being on camera that change, and sometimes it's as subtle as an eye roll. As an editor, I've often found myself, when I'm looking for the perfect reaction shot, looking at moments where the actor, especially when they're not professional actors, aren't conscious of being on camera. The act of being on camera changes our awareness of who we are and what we're doing. Even now, I'm thinking about my hands, I'm thinking about smiling, I'm thinking about making eye contact here versus eye contact there. As an editor, I'm looking at somebody's image and I'm trying to see the light behind their eyes, the emotion. The aesthetics of faces can really change the way you look and see and feel the emotion of people. There is no such thing in my head as perfect. There's perfect for the given role, given for the perfect moment. So when I watch people act and respond, when I see their faces, there's that moment of light. I think, the smiling of somebody's eyes, as opposed to just their smile, tells an element of truth. Editorial and storytelling is trying to tell truth with more than just sound, with human beings that we're emoting, and people's faces really are where the story is told. That storytelling piece means the difference between two different actors getting a role.
So that leads us when we first opened this, when we first met, I talked about a little bit what I'm here to do and learn the whole craft as well. And you immediately thought about the film Looker by Michael Crichton. Crichton.
Michael Crichton. He's a fairly famous physician who became an author. It's about a future where a advertising company has decided to send actresses out for plastic surgery so they can become perfect. And along the way, they realize as soon as they start acting, they're not perfect, and they look to make them computer models and then kill the actresses so they don't have to pay them. It's a really interesting precursor to exactly what you're studying or what you're looking into right now.
I also saw a lot of film noir look into it, cookies being used with blinds and so forth. I thought that was really amazing. It's a genre of its own, and I think it's going to be one of those timeless films.
But it's funny because you're seeing interesting uses of technology where they project a pattern in somebody's face to kind of give this communication that they're working with the future technology of mapping people. And some of the things we talk about today about eye tracking, like they were demonstrating in the film, maybe faking, but demonstrating, and we're talking 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, amazing. So finally, again, thank you for all your knowledge. And I would encourage all the students, if you're interested in classes with editing, to reach out to Jeff. Where can they find your, contact you, or follow you?
The easiest place to find me, I'm Film Geek on Twitter, on Instagram. You can find me at the letter J, Greenberg, BERG, consulting.com.
Thank you. Well, I want to give you a little gift from Florida Atlantic University, and that's a little cup. I know you love coffee, and that'll keep it nice and piping hot for you, and maybe you can remember us and maybe invite us on one of your next courses. I know you have the Editor's Retreat. We're interested in that.
The Editor's Retreat is happening in July. It's happening in Atlanta. I didn't pick the city. We have two major keynotes there. First is Norm Holland. He was for a while the head of editing at USC. He currently does that. He's one of their editing instructors. He's been doing it for 20 years. He cut films like Heathers. He cut The Cotton Club. And I don't think there's anybody in LA for the last 10 or 15 years who hasn't either worked formerly as a student of Norm or with one of Norm's students for pretty much every major feature film you see. And the other one we have is Kevin Ross. Kevin was the editor for the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things, cut about half the episodes. And the two of them are going to come hang out. They'll play poker with us. They'll drink alcohol with us. The event's a blast. It's just as social outside of the rooms as it is in the educational side.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, and it was a pleasure.
Totally my pleasure.